You are watching Business Heroine TV for the entrepreneur who said she would and did. Join the Business Heroine community today at businessheroinemagazine.com. And now, tune into the show.
Welcome. I am Ann Perry, your host and founder of Business Heroine. And today we have Jena la Flamme as our special guest, and I'm very excited to introduce you to her. Jena is a pleasurable weight loss expert, and she helps women around the world lose weight, heal emotional eating, and look and feel fabulous and feminine in natural, sustainable, and, you didn't hear it wrong, pleasurable ways without dieting, deprivation, or even giving up chocolate. So Jena's the leader of the pleasurable weight loss movement, and she's been featured in Glamour, Elle, ABC, NBC, Fox, the Discovery Channel, and now Business Heroine. So I'm very excited to have you here, Jena. So thank you for being here.
My delight.
And I'm excited. I was actually just telling a friend of mine that I was going to be interviewing you, and I was like, I can't wait to just dive in and learn more about pleasure as a weight loss strategy and just pleasure in general. I want to talk about it. So let's start with that. Like, getting basic, like, what is pleasure? What does that mean in as far as what you do, and what does that look like in real life?
Okay, so pleasure has a lot of stigma in our culture, and we think of pleasure as decadence and indulgence, and it's something you should feel guilty about, and it's frivolous and a waste of time. And that's what we're sort of fed to think about pleasure. But actually, pleasure can be the simplest thing. But in its simplest definition, pleasure is an expansion, like an opening, rather than a contraction, no. So that can be the simplest thing, that you're in the street and you see this bird because it's spring and the leaves are coming back, and you just, you're open. And when you design your life to be openly paying attention to those things because you know all the benefits it gives you, to focus on what's pleasurable as opposed to focus on what's stressful and punishing, then over time that creates a life, a business, in terms of weight loss, a relationship with food, with your body, and therefore with weight loss, that is very beneficial for women. It's very in sync with who we are.
Yeah, I liked how you say that, because that's probably what is behind my question a little bit, is like, like almost guilt or something for pleasure, or it's like instant gratification or something like that. So there is probably a stigma. I don't know if I'm the only one, but that's cool. So it's it could be anything from just a moment or just a feeling of expansiveness, and is that kind of right? Just like aiming for that feeling of open and.
Let me distinguish between pleasure and instant gratification.
Okay, perfect.
As I make the distinction between what I call true pleasure and counterfeit pleasure, and they're often confused in our culture. True pleasure is a feeling that feels good, and it can be a physical pleasure, an emotional, a spiritual pleasure, a mental pleasure. It feels good now, in a day, I mean, even in an hour, in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year. You look back and go, yeah, that was great. Mm-hmm. Satisfying pleasure. Versus a counterfeit pleasure can give you that instant gratification, but an hour later you got a bellyache because eating the whole pizza that was designed for 4 people, it doesn't feel good.
Right.
Or drinking the bottle of wine, instant gratification, but then it's the hangover, and over time it's a sick liver and poor skin, and it all adds up.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. Or
pleasure ceases to be pleasure when it doesn't truly feel good anymore.
Yeah.
So addiction is people kidding themselves that they're having pleasure, but they're not actually. They, talk to any addict, and it's punishment.
Right.
As soon as we start overeating, it's not really pleasurable anymore. You can think it is. You can be saying, I eat the ice cream because it's pleasurable, and it is to a degree. But if you really checked in and said, okay, what will be the most pleasurable thing now? Overdoing it on anything doesn't actually feel that good. It's about having a diversified pleasure portfolio, as my friend would say, not having all your pleasure in one bucket, which people often do. Okay, work, here's all my stress. Oh, ice cream, there's all my pleasure. And it's just so black and white. And we can have the pleasure in different flavors disseminated throughout your life, And, in the case of Business Heroine, we're talking about your work life. Pleasurable workplace is an expression I like to use.
I know, as you're talking, like that's where I instantly want to go, because if I have an addiction, it's probably working too much, overworking. So I'm like excited. I feel like I'm going to get a little coaching session here by interviewing and just learn so much. But before we go into that, I want to hear more about you. Like, how did you discover pleasure in your life? Like, what's your story?
My story is that from about the age of 14, I became a compulsive eater and bulimic. And I was bulimic for 5 years. After that, I continued on up until my mid-20s, binging, eating compulsively, eating emotionally. I was 20 pounds overweight and hating my body and really miserable, and felt so much shame, and in this really isolated, out of control place of despair and self-disgust. And the scary thing is that is a more common experience than not. I can say that to you, and chances are, if not you, your sister, your friend, you know what I'm talking about when I describe. It may not be bulimia, but some version.
Dissatisfaction with your body, whether it's the perfect body or whatever.
Yeah. And that playing out then with food. Thinking that we have to control the food, to control the body, so we can be lovable. And we're taught a very sick message in our culture. I mean, what we're teaching our girls. Yeah. We could say there's a virus of self-hatred in the water in our culture. Yeah. That's the normal thing. Go into the high schools and be like, hi, do you love yourself and your body?
It's like not cool if you do.
It's not cool if you do.
I saw something, it was, this was years ago, but it was a little, like on the Discovery Channel or something, and it was little girls at a birthday party, like they're 9 years old-ish, that age range, and they were like, oh, are you going to have the cake? Like, oh, you don't feel fat if you eat the cake? Like, there was this whole conversation around, like, eating the cake or not eating the cake, and kind of like, I don't know, like calling themselves fat, but as like this social kind of like that was what you're supposed to do. It was really sad.
I really love that you bring that up, because it exaggerates the point. Here's little girls talking about being fat, and it creates a problem. They don't have a weight problem. They're little girls, but through those games and those, let's be like, if their role models are all saying, I hate my body, that's what they think it means to be a woman. And I clearly picked that up. And it was, I could feel, and that I didn't want to go through life hating my body. I didn't want to go through life with this thing basically taking over my brain, my attention. I wanted to be a powerful woman in the world, and my brain was being hijacked by bad body image and obsession with food. Then you can't get a good work day done. It's like a hate.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to get to the bottom of it. And I tried a lot. I studied yoga for 2 years, really in-depth yoga, meditation. I lived in India, and I really went deep with that. And that brought me huge strides forward, but still my compulsive eating was there. And then I studied nutrition. And then I learned a lot about nutrition, coaching people on nutrition. And granted, the quality of the food I was eating did really improve, but now I was binging on healthy food. And I was that one who had all the answers but couldn't get it together, which is how a lot of women find themselves. Yeah. And what turned it around for me was when, complaining as usual, a teacher responded to me, I know why you're struggling with food and weight. I was like, why? He said, it's because you're not listening to her. I'm like, who? He said, Jena, there's two of you. And I say this to you, Anne, and everyone watching, there's two of you. There's your mind, and there's your body. And your body's an animal. If you're a female human, you have a female mammal as your body. And the good news is that all animals in nature know what to eat naturally. They just do. You wouldn't think of a monkey or something. Should I eat this? Or it's innate.
Right.
And your body knows too. The problem is, my teacher said this to me straight up, and it changed my life. You haven't been listening to her. You haven't been respecting her. And I realized I'd been treating my body as an object, as a possession, and the culture teaches us this. If she wasn't, now what I'd now call she, but then it was, if my body's not good enough, fuck you, you owe it to me. And this very superior mind that's, oh, I'm good, but you suck.
Interesting. Yeah.
And the truth of it is, your body is your access to life itself. When you go to sleep at night, it's your body that keeps the heart pumping, keeps the lungs going. When you trip on the stairs, it's your body that catches the railing before your mind has time to think. When you cut yourself and it heals, it's your body. When you eat something, whatever it is, and your body figures out how to digest it, it's your body. You make a baby as an ultimate example. Like, the mind just can't take credit for these things.
Yeah.
There is a wisdom there that you haven't been tapping into if you've been struggling with diets and all of that emotional eating stuff that I struggled with for a decade. And pleasurable weight loss is about coming home to the wisdom of her, your female animal, as I call her, of naming your body, her. And that's one of the tools I want to share today. Sounds so simple. Refer to your body rather than your body. It is XYZ.
Or I am. Or I am. I mean, it's a question, I guess, but because. Go ahead.
Well,
I'm like,
instead of saying it, refer to your body as she or her.
Okay.
So instead of what do I want for lunch, or in addition to what do I want for lunch, sourcing from the head, what does she want for lunch? What does she need in the lunch break? Maybe even in addition to the food. Maybe she needs water. Maybe she needs a little stroll. Maybe she wants a little nap for 20 minutes. And the thing is, and in the stigmatization of pleasure, what's really being missed is the huge biochemical benefits of pleasure. Pleasure triggers relaxation, and relaxation is where all the good stuff happens in the human body. And when we're in stress, there's a benefit to that. It's the fight or flight response. It revs us up, but it's not sustainable. It's designed to be about 5 or 6 minutes, and after that, it becomes toxic. Side effects of maintaining this thing versus pleasure, relaxation helps your hormones, helps your sleep, your moods, your weight loss, helps your digestion. Having a pleasurable experience while you eat and having pleasure while you work actually boosts your creativity. It boosts your capability. Studies have shown that we have the circadian rhythm, which is once a day, but also the ultradian rhythm, which means many times a day our energy goes up and down. And they've tracked this, that it's when it goes up, you'll see mental alertness.
The ambulance does it's like making the point about the it's making the point for you. It's like that. The adrenaline. Anyway. So say that again, the rhythms.
Yes. So when you start a period of engagement, your heart rhythm, your brain activity goes up. And after about an hour, it starts to go down. And after a 90 to 120 minute cycle, if you keep pushing after that, you're going to see signs. Fatigue, cravings, heart, can affect your heart, digestion, all these signs. Stress that can lead to weight loss. So now we're coming to the idea of a pleasurable workplace.
Yeah, I want to ask you that, but hang on one second.
Okay.
Because I want to, I want to digest this a little bit. So, so I'm just going to try to recap at the best of my ability. But it's like, I totally get what you're saying. It's like when we're trying to force ourselves one way or the other, whether it's work, whether it's eating, and that distinction that you made, I love that instead of what do I want, it's what does she want, because then it's almost like your body is your friend and you're taking care of them and you're not trying to force them to be a certain way. Like if you treated your body as a friend, there's no way you would be like, drink that whole bottle of wine. You'd be like, oh, friend, not sure you want that whole bottle of wine or whatever. So I really love that.
That's a daughter, treating your body as your daughter.
Yeah.
Metaphor. Would you tell your daughter, oh, you're not lovable, you're so fat. You got to get control of yourself before you can show your face at a party. No. You'd be the cheerleader until the last day.
And then like with the eating choices as well, because you wouldn't ever tell your kid, if you want your kid to be healthy, to, binge eat something, or to throw it up. Oh, you shouldn't have eaten that, so now go throw it up, or whatever it is. But
Yeah.
and then so from a work standpoint, how do you, is it the same thing? It's like you treat is it the same distinction between like your mind versus your body? Like, what does my body need while I'm in my workspace, or while I'm in my work zone, or in this work meeting?
You are a fast learner.
Oh, thank
Yes.
you.
So the premise is of this pleasurable concept, whether it be for weight loss or workplace or marriage or any of those things, is there are two of you. There's your mind and your body. Your body's an animal. And your body and mind they operate differently. What is a priority to your body is pleasure, is getting away from pain and moving towards pleasure. And it's been that way for creatures since the beginning of time. So if your mind attends to this and goes, wow, the bit that's keeping me alive here, the living, breathing female part of me, in the case of us women, has pleasure as its evolutionary compass. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And waking up to, if you don't attend to your body's pleasure, she is going to go, I'll get it anyway. And when you're tired, it's going to show up like binging in one way or the other. Some excess, maybe it's shopping binging. Maybe it's so many different ways to go unconscious and get a big dose of pleasure when we're really pleasure deprived.
Or like the instant gratification style instead of, I could see how that might affect work decisions where, if you kind of equate it to food, or drinking alcohol or whatever. So like instantly, what would make me feel what I think is pleasure, quote unquote pleasure, is drinking all these glasses of wine. But then obviously that's the instant gratification part. And so for when it comes to work, maybe we make a decision that's like, if we've been driving ourselves so far, it's like, maybe I don't want to, I'm just talking about myself here. It's like so obvious. So let me just call it like it is. Like myself, if I'm feeling like I'm working really, really hard, so then maybe there's a part of me that kind of resents that. It's the piece of me that wants pleasure. So instead of making a decision that is wise and gentle, it might just like blow something off, because like I don't want that in my life. That's too much work, and now screw you. Instead of kind of having that balance all the way along.
If you neglect the animal, finally she will retaliate, and it won't be pretty. And you give pleasure a bad name, but that's that's not it. What we're looking for is, how can you now to work. When you go to work, your body and your mind, you need them to cooperate.
Yeah.
You need your body to be sitting there at that desk, typing away or creating or whatever it is you're doing.
Right.
And how do you want to get your work partner on board, really cooperative, helping you come up with the most innovation and productivity and just like, wow, range within yourself, that you feel like a business heroine, because you're like, damn, I'm creating and this is fueling me and this feels good.
Right.
Just throw your dog a bone once in a while.
Yeah.
And what I recommend is every 90 to 120 minutes, have a break, and a 20-minute break. And that's just a change of pace, something different, and then come back to it.
Yeah.
And know that if you don't prioritize your pleasure, it's going to come around and get you somehow. So actively build that into your workflow. And I really think it's only the old mentality that has us scared that if we take a pleasure break, it's going to ruin the work day and then we're never going to get anything done.
Yeah,
that's propaganda. There's science to show, and the big HR leaders would back it up.
Yeah.
Like, business leaders know working yourself to the bone is not the best way to do it.
Right.
It's just, we need to wake up to that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Conditioning. That's the best way, because I think I was definitely raised that way too, working my ass off, and it's something to be vulnerable myself, like you, Anne, which I appreciate. Needing to, I can get swept away and working all the time too, and then like, hey, I got to walk the talk.
Yeah, and as entrepreneurs, I mean, it's you and I have experienced it, but so many people say this once they're in charge of their own, like they're the boss. they're the CEO, they're the worker, they're the janitor, they're everything, because they're out there now and doing business. And so it's even more important to just bring that self-care in, because I don't know, I've just talked to so many women where they're like, I'm responsible. Like, if I don't get to take a sick day now, whereas when I had a job, a 9-to-5 job, I could at least take a sick day or take a vacation. And now it's like they're the business. And, part of that is also building a business that isn't another job that's called a business, But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. There's just like so many layers to it, So what are some things what are some examples of a pleasure break during the middle of the day to take care of that animal body that we have? Yes. What might somebody do?
I think the ultimate one is the dance break.
Oh, okay.
And it's my belief that every woman loves to dance, even if she doesn't know it yet.
Uh-huh.
It's in her body. We've just danced all through time. And sadly, in our culture, people learn to feel ashamed of their bodies at a young age and then get shut down and don't get into dancing. Mm. But if you can do it in privacy, all the better, to just put on a song and dance.
Love it.
Just from your heart.
Love it.
So that's one. I'm a big fan of the ritual of herbal tea. I do like my green tea and my black tea too. I won't sound too pure there, but I do like a good herbal tea that's not caffeinated. I'm going to buzz me up, but somehow energize me in a different way. I love the yogi teas and having an actual teapot that that age-old ritual of brewing the tea, letting it sit there for a few minutes, and then having it. I like to call a friend. Just go for say I'm in my work emails. Go into my personal and just see, what would just be a fun thing to do right now, and then get back on track. Eating meals with people when possible is a lovely way. It doesn't have to be a whole big fanfare, but just to be eating with someone.
It's kind of interesting when you're giving these examples. They're all sort of just going back to the roots of what it is to just of culture or being human, like back to the caveman days, gathering around the fire and having a meal with your community, or dance, like you said. That's just it's in our cells for centuries, since the beginning of humans. It's interesting. Now, what about higher, longer term decisions? So there's the day to day and taking care of your body. And what about, for example, with Business Heroine, I love it. I absolutely love being involved and the people I get to meet and the type of work that feeds me. And so that's, what is that as far as pleasure? I mean, it's a different type of pleasure. It's like the job itself or the business, what it is. Making decisions on this activity will bring me joy versus this activity won't, or I don't know. Is there anything to know about that?
So you are a collaboration between your mind and your body, and we want the body to be having a good time and the mind too. And from what I can see, the biggest obstacle for the mind is in falling into the victim role, which has the poor me, I have to because of such and such, and feeling like you're not at choice anymore. Like, I have to see more clients because I've got overhead and I've got this, and it's just all escalating out of control, and I'm just trying to keep up with my own life and the kids, and then it can feel like this ain't your dream life. It might look like it, but there's an underlying kind of panic that predominates. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I know exactly what you're talking about. Even when you've created something that you love, and then it's but then you feel like it's not your choice anymore. Or I have to. Yeah, the martyr victim game. I totally know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to do really deep work on myself with that one, and because there's generations of women that are our role models, mine, where we've been taught that as a way, and ultimately it's not the best way. Right. The best way, as I see it, is to live with the mantra, I'm creating this. And if it's something you don't like, it takes real integrity to go, wow, that thing, Shit, I created that too. What was a lesson in that? What can I do differently? How can I... Um, one of my favorite quotes is from my friend and teacher, Mama Jena, who says, pleasure is the highest form of responsibility. What does that mean? That means that you can be like, oh, well, I've got this great company, but it's like, oh, it's a lot of work to run it and allow the stress. You know, it'd be totally valid if you were saying running the business is very stressful. You know, I believe you. But wow, what a breathtaking responsibility it imply that you are taking if you were able to operate with it being pleasurable. With those challenges, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be intensity. It's not just all like, oh, you know, feathers and champagne. It's the pleasure is just that. It's the pleasure of meeting your deadline and you know, it's all those different levels of satisfaction. But basically guaranteeing your good time. Not requiring the world to give you pleasure. Oh, come on, world. Prove it to me that life is pleasurable. It's work that way. It's saying where, you know, I know the pleasure is an option here. I know the punishment is too. Committed to choosing the pleasurable one and being flexible, being patient, being compassionate, you know, evolving so that I can flow at the moment and always look on the bright side.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's so well put. Yeah, I love that. So,
well, I tell you, when it comes to running my company, and I have a team, there's 3 of us. Actually, it was 4, myself and 3 team members. We, you know, my team know if they are, if they're not feeling well, I'm going to be remembering there's 2 of them. There's the mind and there's their body. I might be like, damn, but I want you to like meet the deadline or whatever it is. But I have so much respect for the animal that, like, oh, you know, be good to your body, be good to your animal, take care of her first and foremost. Like, we really respect that. You can think of your body as your child. Also, your body's like your mother. Like she's the source of your life. And having a lot of reverence and respect for the body allows you to be human. I love how you said that. In the workplace, and then not be living up to some sterile, antiseptic ideal that you're a robot, because you're not.
Right. I love that. If we could just implant that in all the bosses of the world and people running companies, and I mean, I love everything you're saying, because I mean, it's like on one level there's the mind and then there's the body, and they both need to be taken care of. And what I keep hearing is that, or at least I don't know if I'm reading in this between the lines, but when you taking care of your body is kind of this way to take care of your mind as well. Like, because your mind can go into that like victim, martyr, stressed out mode when you haven't been taking care of your body. So if you aren't giving yourself those pleasure breaks, then that's when all that type of thinking comes in, and it's annoying. Like that, you know, it's like that person isn't who we really are or want to be in the world. You know, it's like that. I don't know. So I love that. And then incorporating that into your leadership and how you work with the people who are on your team, and honoring that, and in yourself and others. It's pretty revolutionary, really.
One thing in the feminine workplace, I really like to say that we strive to embody the feminine values of contribution, of collaboration, of connectivity, and that we're taking a stand to be something different. From a competitive, really hard-nosed.
Totally.
I've always, from the beginning, said if someone's in my team, and they would say, you know, I work for Jena. I'd be like, no, you work with Jena, and not even allowing that paradigm of working forward. Also, another interesting thing is I think of my team as I am their client rather than their boss.
That's awesome.
So when you have a client, you know, your client pays you, and so in the situation that I am their client, you know, I'm paying them for their services, and there's something humble about being a client. You know, you're like, you want to be kept as a client. You don't want to be fired as a client. You come with this openness, like I'm here, or not. I'm engaging in you because I need something you've got. I need your contribution, your knowledge, your wisdom. I'm here to open to you.
Yeah.
Rather than having the like, I'm the boss and I'm in charge and you're working for me.
Totally.
And I never run my company that way. And I think these mindsets are just create a pleasurable environment where people can be themselves. And I have the best time with my team, I've got to say. They're virtual now. They're going around the globe, and I miss them.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I feel just as lucky with my team with Business Heroine. We have so much fun, and we're like pinching ourselves sometimes. Like, is this real life? We just it's just awesome. It's so great. So I wish that for everyone. And I really just the community that we have. When you said the collaboration versus the competition and all of that stuff, like just being in a community of women who are here to empower each other and to support each other and to walk into a group of people, or whether that's virtually or on a Facebook group or whatever, and just to know I'm more powerful in myself because I'm hanging around other women who believe in themselves and in me, and we all just like hold that for each other. I don't know. It inspires me. But,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to say is about the suffering.
Yeah.
At the beginning, the guilt.
Yeah.
So it's important for us to be aware that it's in the air of the culture that it's good to be suffering. And often it's said, it's more implied, but people really believe it. Other times it's said more outwardly, and there are religions that are very influential in our culture where it's believed that, suffering will get you to heaven, and there's like a real moral value in suffering. That's something you can be really proud of. And whereas pleasure, you should be ashamed of that.
Right.
And the shame will freeze you, and you'll never be able to implement my suggestions because you're so frozen from the beginning, you can't even give pleasure a try. So I want you to really catch that and notice, how it's an idea in the culture, and test it and see if it really is true. I'm here to say it's not true. Pleasure, true pleasure is conscious, it's aware, it's healing, it's energizing, it's refreshing, it's bonding. True pleasure is give you everything that's good, that having allegiance with suffering it's not going to do it for you, sister, in the same way. for your work, for anything. It really is a guiding way of living. Yeah.
I mean, that's great, because I was going to ask you, what are the biggest obstacles, or what are the obstacles to bringing pleasure into our life? And so what I'm hearing is maybe we're not even aware that we're feeling guilty if we allow pleasure. Maybe we are aware of it, and maybe it's just so, like you said, it's in the fabric, it's in the air we breathe, that it's just we don't even notice that it's like maybe we're not allowing ourselves, because then that means we're selfish or greedy or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, a great way is you imagine, like, oh, what if I did like this pleasurable thing, and you like make it really imagine something really fantastic for you, and just notice if the guilt comes up. And often there'll be, I don't deserve it, work hard, I don't have enough money to do it. And really, it's not about the money. You can go to the park and, use your breath, use your body, even sitting under an umbrella in the rain. If your attention is like, oh, where's the magic? Where's the pleasure? Where's the delight? How can I just get this reboot of my soul that I'm alive?
Yeah.
Money is no obstacle.
Right.
And there's always sex, which is free as well.
Yeah, it's free. Yeah. Usually, I mean, when it's legal. I love that. Just thinking of like rainstorms. There's this picture I just thought of that from my best friend from third grade and I. It was this crazy rainstorm, and it was summertime in Colorado, and they have just summer thunderstorms where it's like the concrete's hot, but it's just downpour. And so there's these pictures of us in our rain boots. We're like running out, and it was like so much fun. And then it's like somewhere along the way as an adult, it's like, oh, this inconvenience of the rainstorm, where it's like, it's a rainstorm. It is just this neutral rainstorm, and it can either be pleasure or it can be a big hassle, or whatever we choose to make it, I guess, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, if your family oriented towards suffering and being depressed or sad or anxious or angry. And, you bring this like exuberant bright light that's like sincerely, without denying the darkness of life, just really is committed to being in the pleasure of it. Be met with rejection and like, no, like you don't belong. And so it's really important that when you start to make these moves philosophically about pleasure, and what I did was embrace pleasure as a discipline. I think stress, punishment that's the real discipline, but no, you just go with the flow of the culture and you'll be in suffering and punishment. The real discipline is, okay, how am I going to make, preparing food for my body pleasurable, movement, exercise pleasurable, running a company pleasurable, doing it all, like how that's the discipline.
I love that. So awesome. So if we were to take one simple tip or 3 simple tips that we could take with us, the Business Heroine audience, I really like that one. Just asking that question, maybe even like writing it on a sticky note or something. How can I make blank pleasurable? Like whatever it is that's in front of us.
Yes.
Let's go. I'm going to do that one starting today. That's going to be my homework. Yeah.
And it can even be, how can I make blank more pleasurable? Sometimes at the beginning you might be like, washing the dishes ain't never going to be pleasurable. I just don't like it. But how can be a little more pleasurable?
I can actually give a personal example of how to make dishes particularly pleasurable.
Oh, please do.
Okay. So when I was a little kid, we had to do we had our little chores, whatever they were, and dishes was my chore sometimes. And so we had the, the kitchen sink where there's the window in front of it, and then you have the little sprayer hose that you spray down the sink with. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I had this game where I was bank teller because I always thought that would be the coolest job, because when you go to the drive-through bank and they used to have these things that would like shoot out and you'd put the money in there and then shoot it back, and then sometimes they'd send a sucker if there was a kid in the car, it's like, oh. So I thought being a bank teller would be awesome. So what I would do is I would stand there and I would pretend like the window was my bank drive-up window and the little squirty hose thing was my microphone. And so I'd say, okay, what do you need? So three plates and 4 knives are coming right up, and put it down and wash it and take orders. So somehow, as a kid, I did that. I don't really do that anymore, but
that's really cute.
Anyway.
So there is bringing in play. And that is engaging your imagination right there. Right? It's the creative part of your brain. This is all has a lot of benefits. I mean, no wonder how you turned out so brilliant. You were playing like that as a kid.
You're sweet. Well, cool. So, any last?
Let's call that number 1.
Okay, number 1. Yeah.
How can I make this more pleasurable, or how can I make this pleasurable?
Perfect.
Number 2, refreshing the one I said before, referring to your body as she.
Okay.
What does she want to eat? What does she need to do this weekend? Who does she want to sleep with? Who does she not want to sleep with? You can refer to her wisdom, and then it becomes a collaboration with your mind as you listen and you integrate, and then you can choose as a conscious whole. And
that's a distinction right there. Just real quick, sorry.
Yeah.
Every time you've been talking, and you've alluded to that numerous times, kind of this duality. There's the mind and the body, and I mean, I guess on some level I've heard something like that before, but somehow it just clicks a little differently. When maybe because it's never been in the context of pleasure, and I really love that. Just kind of, I don't know. It's awesome. I'm happy about it. So thank you. Okay, and then what's our number 3?
So the third one, what's coming to mind for me, especially with the Business Heroine audience, is to have pleasure in adorning yourself, in dressing yourself. I mean, some people have very virtual companies where they're never seen and it's all through the net, but at some point we are interacting with the world. Even if we're alone in our office, we see how we're put together. And what classically happens is if a woman isn't happy with her body, then she's waiting until some future day to start really adorning her body like the exquisite creature that she is. So I would say stop that, starting now, have that be one little feminine thing that can add delight to your day. And studies have shown that putting attention to those little things like, your makeup or your perfume or your lingerie, or just feeling like a woman and feeling feminine, feeling beautiful, because it relaxes us, it triggers all the well-being hormones, and
wow, that's fascinating.
can actually improve your hormones by treating yourself like a woman and relaxing
awesome.
and enjoying that. So that's a good one.
And I think she would want that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I don't feel like taking an extra hour to, get ready in the morning or whatever, but she wants to be adorned and dressed up and treated like this beautiful creature that she is. So.
And you'll notice when you do that for her, she will go the extra mile for you. She's not selfish. She'll give you more stamina. She'll give you more confidence. She'll get you that deal. She's always wanting to give back.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jena. This has just been awesome. I feel just this conversation has added more pleasure to my life, and I think it's going to be a fun rest of the day. So thank you so much, and can't wait to go on the air with this and have everybody else benefit. So thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Business Heroine. Bye. Pleasure to you.
You have been watching Business Heroine TV, for the entrepreneur who said she would and did. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to check out what's new at businessheroinemagazine.com today.